Good everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to another episode of Platform App Builders Certification Series. So today we're going to continue with the identity basics topic. It's not a hands-on session, it's a theory session. So I would encourage you to go and read it out, read this content because it's important for you to understand, right? In my last episode, I talked about how single sign-on works, about identity connect, different stuff we talked about it, right? So, and how you can connect the Salesforce using social platforms, right? Facebook or LinkedIn, right? So, so today we're gonna dig a little bit more deep into protocols, right? Just to give you a basic information about what SAML is about, what OAuth is all about, right? So before I start talking about this session, right? So I just wanted to understand that, right? Why security is important in Salesforce, right? So if you're an employee, right? You're working on it for a company, so obviously your employer trusts you with the sales. That's why they give you an access to the Salesforce org to do whatever you're supposed to do as a part of your job, right? But the same trust you can't enforce on a stranger, right, who never have any contact with your company. But that being said, there might be a case where you might want to give access to your org to your partners, right? Probably to your customers at times. So that's where the trust comes in the picture. So that's why you need to understand identity. But that being said, right? So at times you might want your partners to log in using say LinkedIn profile, right? So that's where the social sign-on concept comes into picture. So that's why it's important that the Salesforce lets you access to using social sign-on. So now there are two concepts you need to understand. One is the identity provider, and another one is the service provider. That's where this protocol comes in picture, right? So now, what is an identity provider? Identity provider, think about something like this. It's like someone who verifies your identity. That's how, in simple terms, right? And service provider is like the service who you are the service you wanted to get. For instance, very simple example. You wanted to get the Salesforce access, right? So you can get Salesforce access using LinkedIn, right? So you log into LinkedIn and you can use the LinkedIn credential to access the Salesforce org. So in this case, right, Salesforce is the service provider and LinkedIn is an identity provider. So what LinkedIn does is, right, so Salesforce asks the LinkedIn, hey, this truck guy wanted to access my org. Do you recognize this person? So the identity provider obviously say, yeah, I know that person very well. I'm talking in a very basic layman term, right? I don't think this is what happens behind the scene. It's not that simple. So I'm going to explain to you in a minute what happens behind the scene, just from a layman perspective, right? So the LinkedIn, so LinkedIn says, yeah, I know that person. So this is the person profile information, like the last name, the first name, right? And I trust this guy. So let this guy in and let him do whatever he wants to do based on your org access, right? That's pretty much the concept of service provider identity. But behind the scene it's much more complicated, right? So we have two protocol. So we're going to talk about SAML first. The SAML is usually very handy when you're talking about single sign-on, right? It's a security assertion markup language. It's similar to like an XML, right? So it's like when you behind the scene, the SAML assertion takes place. So when there's a handshaking between the service provider and the identity provider happens, right? So what happens is that they send a something like this, right? A similar form of an XML, so where you send a username, other information of the user to the service provider to say, look, this guy is genuine, right? So if you're asking me whether I know this guy, yes, I know. So this is SAML session. So that's where the SAML comes in the picture. It's very handy. It's a very commonly used protocol in single sign-on, right? So if you're someone who have coded single sign-on or who worked with single sign-on, understand the SAML very well. So this is very basic. Just read about it. I will put the link below. So this is a very good article on a Trailhead. So I would highly encourage you to check this out. That's why I said today's session is only theory. We're not doing any hands-on. So then we have OAuth2 protocol. So OAuth2 protocol, usually, I've used a lot during integration, right? So when you wanted to give access to your APIs to third party, you use OAuth protocol. So it's an open protocol, right? So it's allowed the sharing data between the two systems, right? Between Salesforce Org or SAP, or between Salesforce Org or another, let's say, Oracle system, between Salesforce Org or Xero or whatever, right? So different. So you can use the OAuth protocol to do that. So if you know, if you do not know how to set up an OAuth, it's pretty simple. I've talked about it in my last episode, that you go to App Manager, create a connected app, create a new app, and then enable the OAuth security. So, and then it will offer you with client's secret key and ID. So I've talked about it in one of my episodes a long time ago, not related to this certification series, but I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested to know. I've written a blog about it as well, so I'll put a link of that blog in the description below, so that if you wanted to give access to a third party, right? A third party, let's say if you wanted to access your API, right, then you can do that. You can enable that. It's without using code. Cool. All right, so that's about OAuth protocol. Just read about it. It's very handy. Then OpenID protocol, right? It's actually based on OAuth. So as usual, if you remember, I talked about accessing your Salesforce org using Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. Right, so that's where the social sign-on comes in picture. Because think about it, right? I mean, you don't want to force people to create a specific user ID in a Salesforce, right? So it should be automatic process. So that's what I talked about it, like when you integrate with AD, Active Directory, right? So for instance, like in my organization, right? Just a very simple example, right? So I don't have to log into my Salesforce using a separate ID. I can use my own login credential, which I log into my Windows, right? So it syncs with Active Directory. So that's where, seamless integration comes in the picture, right? So in the same way, single sign-on is very handy. If you remember, I talked about like when you log into Salesforce and you wanted to access to other system, right? Say Workday or, whatever system, third-party systems, you can do that, right? It needs to be configured though. So that's one of the things. If you remember, I talked about service provider, identity provider. I gave you a very simple example, right, about the LinkedIn and a Salesforce, right? So that's pretty much, that's a very basic layman explanation, right? Just to make you understand, right? So read about it. And so read about the SAML flows. So see, this is the one which I would highly encourage you to read for your own information. What I've covered is a very, very basic. So, but this is how the SAML request happens behind the scenes. See, the user try to access Salesforce. Salesforce recognize the single sign-on request and generates a SAML request. So that's a SAMLization comes in the picture, right? Salesforce redirect the SAML request to the browser, and the browser redirects the SAML request to external identity provider, right? So identity provider verifies the user and SAMLization. So this 1, 2, 5 is responsible for SAMLization. So sends the SAMLization to the browser, and so Salesforce verify the session. So it's very simple. That's why I said that this is how the SAML behind the scene is passed on. So right, so read about it, and I would highly encourage you to solve these questions as well, because the thing is that it's a theory, right? But you still need to understand the concept, right? I mean, when you go to other certification, right, sharing and other stuff, you might need to know more and more detail about it. And if you're a developer, right, you need to know what SAML is all about, what's use of OAuth, right? Because you will be integrating with third-party systems, so it's very important you to understand. So that's why I often tell people, right, when they are going for a certification, so it's always good to have admin first, which is the basic one. It gives you an overview about different services that's out there and different functionality, which is very important. And then if you're someone who does code, right, I often ask them to go for platform developer one first before going for app builder. Then the platform developer one, then you can go to app builder, then probably you can go to integration designer, or the main one, right? Then if you wanted to do other stuff like Sales Cloud or Einstein, it's your choice. Right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. So we got a few more stuff to cover. So let me take you back, right? So this is the identity basics I talked about, right? And so as usual, every time I mention, right, I teach you guys from Trailhead, because I don't want to use any other resource, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Trailhead is great. They're comprehensive. The study plan is amazing. So that's why it makes my job much easier to teach you guys, right? And that's one of the reasons why I don't charge even a single penny, right? Because why should I charge when the data is there? All I'm doing is, bringing my experience to you. It helps me as well, right? Be a better learner at the same time while teaching you. So it's a benefit for me as well, because it helps me to know Salesforce better. At the same time, it helps you learn the technology as well. So right, there's no free thing. There's no free lunch, right? So I have advantage, right? My advantage is that I'm getting to know the stuff more better. So yeah, that's my. So not everyone tells you about it, but I'm very honest and open about it, right? Because, I believe in fair and honest stuff in this world. But yeah, anyways. Okay, so we're going to talk about then, I'm not going to cover the super badge, right? I expect you to do that by yourself, right? So, I mean, if you want me to do super badge, that's going to be a separate session, right? Not as a part of the certification theory. At least I want you to do hands-on, right? So that's why I could have done super badge, but I don't want it to do it, because I want you guys to do it to make you more confident, right? If I start doing super badge, then what's the point? Okay, then we're going to talk about formulas, right? Cheat sheet is very important. It's handy at times, right? Then we're going to talk about lightning flows, screen flow distribution, lightning productivity, right? Then we're going to do, automation. You can, look into super badge. You need to do it by yourself. Then we're going to talk about chatter. Then we talk about app builder. It's very simple, straightforward. I remember, if you remember, I talked about it when I was talking about Lightning customization. I mentioned a little bit about app builder. So we're going to go more detail into app builder, and then we're going to talk about reports. Reports are the pretty straightforward stuff in Salesforce. So we're going to do reports, and then we're going to talk about mobile app customization. And then that's pretty much, right? And build this, I would expect you to build it, right? It's very, very easy, but I'm just going to build a basic for you just to get it started, right? Okay. Right. So that's pretty much, we're going to talk about it, right? So we got a lot more content to cover. And yeah, I think we will finish in 15 days, right? 15 to 20 days max. Then I would highly encourage you. One of the things I really encourage you to look on is Focus on Force, right? So Focus on Force is a place where you can do hands-on with questions, right? They have amazing questionnaires, so I would highly encourage you to check that out. It's a paid, you need to pay for it. I think it costs around 19 to 20 US dollars, so it's not too much, right? So they will give you a pretty comprehensive list of questions to, to test where you are before certification, right? It's very useful platform, useful testing platform, I would say. I mean, I really wanted to give shout out to the, those team there. So they did a pretty amazing job. So yeah. So I would highly encourage you to, if you're following my video, yeah, it's fine. You're welcome to do so. But this is not just good enough for you to go and sit on the exam. This is, I'll try to cover as much as I can, but I would highly encourage you to do practice tests, right? Then you will understand the kind of questions you can expect. Right, cool. Because I'm not going to talk about question answers and all kind of stuff, practice tests. Right, there are other people out there who does better job than I do. So, right, I don't want to get into that. So, cool. All right, that's being said. Greetings and adios from New Zealand. Take care. Bye bye.